scream. A single scream echoed from somewhere below, followed by another and another. The screams were distant but unmistakable. People were outside, and something was wrong, very wrong. I wanted to look. Every instinct told me not to. Curiosity won. I leaned closer to the window and carefully peered down. Several people were running across the void deck. Some were carrying bags. Others were simply running from the approaching haze. One man stumbled and fell. The green cloud rolled over him before he could get back up. For a few seconds I couldn't see him. Then the haze drifted past. The man was still lying there, motionless. My stomach dropped. I stepped away from the window immediately. No! No, no, no! This wasn't a fire. It wasn't a blackout. It wasn't a cyber attack. Whatever was inside that cloud was deadly. Suddenly, someone hammered against my front door. I nearly jumped out of my skin.
Jude! Jude!
It was my elderly neighbor. Her voice was shaking.
Open the door, quick!
I froze. My hand instinctively reached for the lock. But I paused. The pounding continued. My heart raced. It was my neighbor.
Jude, please.
The woman who had known me since I was a child. The woman who had offered to find the street directory. The woman who had always treated me like her own grandson. Yet the warning echoed in my mind. Do not open to anyone. I stood there, staring at the door, unable to move, unable to decide. And then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Her shadow beneath the door wasn't standing still. It was twitching, moving in strange jerky motions, almost as if something was wrong with her. Then her voice changed, just slightly, enough for me to notice.
Jude!
A long pause followed, then she spoke again, slowly, unnaturally.
Open the door.
And for the first time in my life, she didn't sound like my neighbor anymore. An unknown fear gripped my heart. Every instinct was screaming at me to back away from the door. Yet I found myself leaning forward once more, pressing my eye against the peephole. What I saw nearly made me stumble backwards. My neighbor stood only inches away from my door. But something was terribly wrong. Her face twitched uncontrollably. The muscles around her mouth spasmed as her jaw opened and closed repeatedly. It looked almost like someone shivering from extreme cold, or struggling to control their own body. Her eyes darted up and down, left, right, up again, so rapidly that I could barely follow them. Then for a split second I thought I saw it. The whites. Her entire eyes seemed to turn completely white. No pupils, no color, just white. I blinked. The moment passed. Had I imagined it? I wasn't sure. A wet slurping sound pulled my attention back. My stomach lurched. Saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth. Strings of drool hung from her chin. She made strange gurgling noises deep within her throat. Not words, not breathing. Something in between. Her body swayed awkwardly from side to side, like a puppet whose strings were being pulled by an inexperienced hand. A sudden jerk snapped her head sharply to one side, another jerk, then another. The movement looked painful, unnatural. And yet she didn't react, as though she couldn't feel it. Or worse, as though she wasn't fully aware of it. A thin stream of blood suddenly appeared beneath one nostril. It slowly trickled down her upper lip. She didn't wipe it away, didn't even seem to notice. The blood continued dripping onto her blouse. Still, she remained completely focused on one thing, getting me to open the door.
Jude!
The voice came out as a whisper, a wet, rattling whisper.
Please!
Please. She stopped speaking, stopped twitching, stopped moving altogether. For several seconds she stood perfectly still, not blinking, not breathing, nothing. A grin slowly stretched across her face, far wider than any normal smile. far wider than humanly comfortable. The slurping sound returned. Then a deafening scream erupted somewhere down the corridor. Another neighbor. The scream was cut short almost instantly, followed by a heavy thud, then silence. Complete silence. The thing outside my door stopped laughing. Its head slowly turned towards the source of the sound. For the first time since arriving at my door, it seemed distracted, interested, hungry. A long trail of drool slipped from its mouth. Then, with a sudden burst of speed that no elderly person should have possessed, it sprinted down the corridor. The footsteps echoed away. Gone. I stood frozen in the middle of my living room, unable to move, unable to think, unable to process what I had just witnessed. Then my television crackled to life again. The screen flickered violently. Static filled the room. A terrified voice broke through the noise. The transmission cut, returned, then continued. The voice hesitated. My legs suddenly turned to jelly. Every ounce of strength drained from them until they finally gave way beneath me. I collapsed onto my knees in front of the television. The solid red warning screen disappeared, replaced by moving images, visuals, more information. Somehow, one television station was still broadcasting. The footage showed people screaming, then changing into someone or something they weren't. The symptoms were similar to what I had witnessed through my peephole, but these cases looked even worse. The only advice the news anchors could give was to stay indoors and lock every door. They had no explanations, no cure, no answers. My parents were out there. I couldn't stay safely at home while they were somewhere in the middle of all this. I grabbed my phone. It was still working. Ignoring the flood of unread messages, I tried calling my parents again. Nothing. The call wouldn't go through. Then I remembered the Family Link app. My hands trembled as I opened it and tapped on location. The loading icon spun for what felt like forever. Come on. Come on. Then their location finally appeared. They were only 1 or 2 blocks away from our flat. Relief washed over me. At least they were close.